Hello, boys and girls, and all of you who are participating in adulthood or maybe adultery, and everyone under the rainbow. It's Humpty Dumpty time. Yes, it's Hump Night, Wednesday, February 11th, 2009. And the sun has gone down, and it's 7 p.m. on the Pacific coast of the lower 48 United States. My name is Ace London, and this is Lundon Calling, the talk show you've been waiting for. The internet podcast talk show that could get you high. You could become a podhead. Think about it. Welcome all you wild, wonderful weirdos out there in Podland. Thanks for tuning in. Pre- and post-show music is provided by Sonic Eccles, and you can learn a lot more about Sonic Eccles if you go to the website and check it out. Now, I'm supposed to warn you in advance every show that if you have virgin ears, don't listen, because folks tell me I have a potty mouth. Yes. And it's true. I admit it. Hello, Mike? Michael Phelps? Are you there? Oh, sorry, it's bong time. Oh, damn it, I can't even join you. Well, no Kellogg's for me anymore either. Oh, well, Lancelot, our little non-bonger, he's an ice tinkler. Are you there, Lancelot?
I am.
Oh, care to scold to you? There.
I think if I were to smoke weed, there'd be vodka in the bong.
Well, it's entirely possible. I know that you just got back from New York City, and we're going to talk about that trip after a few heads up here. First of all, congrats, 20th anniversary for Sid and Polly in England. They're listeners over there. Sid is actually one of my baby sister-in-laws, and they've been married 20 years now. My gosh, somebody put up with her for that long, I'll be darned. And we've been talking about the art gallery at the Raw Gallery in New York on the 11th Avenue. Their big exhibition of international works of 300 emerging artists. The show will run from February 19th through March 21st. So, folks in the New York area, do get out to see this. And when you happen to run across the artist by the name of Adrian Avila, you go up to him and say, "Hey, Lundon Calling said to give you a high five, okay?" And thanks again from Sharon Love up in Toronto, Canada. Sharon is in the field of psychology, and bless her heart, I just love this girl. She is trying to do so much to help people. And she said, thanks again to everyone who's participated in the survey for the book on creating great relationships. And this coming Saturday, the 14th, at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's Toronto, Canada time, she's going to be holding a free online class on First Secret of Great Relationships for the first 8 LGBTA people to send in their Skype address and email. And everyone else who enters will get the ebook for free. And so thank you, Sharon, for doing what you're doing up there. It's great. Also, I heard from Ben Dotson over at Central Michigan University. And I think this is important. He's very active there in pushing for gay rights and things like that on the campus and off the campus. And this Saturday, he said, unless they act right now, there's a Michigan TV station that will air a 1-hour anti-gay, anti-LGBT gay propaganda piece designed to, quote, reveal the truth about the radical homosexual agenda. Like Ben, I didn't even know we had an agenda. But the ultra-right-wing American Family Association, the AFA, says it has produced the 60-minute program to air nationwide. And Ben says, we need thousands of people up in Michigan to speak out immediately against this paid campaign of lies before the program airs on WOOD-TV, the local NBC station in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Folks, up at the Michigan area, are you perking up your ears? You better. So, I tell you, these hate crime laws that they want to do away with, the AFA, all for the love of Jesus Christ, they say. And the anchor of this so-called news program that they're going to air is Janet Parshall, P-A-R-S-H-A-L-L, so she spells her name, Parshall. And it was in 2006 that this woman suggested that Matthew Shepard's lifestyle was responsible for his murder. And she called gay adoption state-sanctioned child abuse. Get on your phones or whatever and contact WOOD-TV in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's the NBC channel, and tell them, what the hell are you doing putting that type of BS on the air, even if it's paid? I know this is a free country, but boy, that is really too much. Ben, thank you for telling us about it. Folks, we say it every time, don't we, Lance, that the mark of an educated mind is to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So, amen. You got to remember that, folks. Now, I know that we have a lot of straight listeners, and I got a question for you, because I've asked this of a lot of straight people that are especially married couples. What if you had a child, and the kid comes home one day and says, "Hey, Pops, hey, Mom, I'm gay"? Whoa. Well, that's what happened to my old high school mate, Gilbert Rossing, and we talked about his new book on the last show. And I didn't give you this on the last show, but the website for ordering his new book will be on our website. So you go to the website and look up. The book is titled Dignity, Dogmatism, and Same-Sex Relationships. Gilbert has 2 girls and 2 boys, and it turned out that the 2 boys ended up being gay sons. So it certainly took Gilbert, this little, my buddy from high school, the son of our Emmanuel Lutheran Church minister back home. I'm sure he went through a lot of changes when the kids came out, and now he's got this wonderful book that he has written, and hopefully it will be a great help to not only straights, but to gays as well. And Lance, did you hear that Jim Baker, the Jim Baker from that, I can't remember what the name of his thing was, remember him?
Oh, the PTL, praise the Lord. How could you forget?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Jim Baker Jim Baker and Jimmy Swaggart have written an impressive new book. It's called Ministers Do More Than Lay People.
I love it. Oh, if only it were true. If only we could only be so lucky.
Oh, dear me. Oh, man. Thinking about the economy, which has been on everyone's minds, I got this from a friend. Like a lot of folks in that state, he said, I have a job, I work, they pay me, I pay my taxes, and the government distributes my taxes as it sees fit. And in order to get that paycheck, he says, I am required to pass a random urine test, with which I have no problem, he says. What I do have a problem with is the distribution of my taxes to people who don't have to pass the urine test. Someone have to pass a urine test to get a welfare check because I have to pass one to earn it for them. Please understand, I have no problem with helping people get back on their feet. I do, on the other hand, have a problem with helping someone sitting on their ass doing drugs while I work. Can you imagine how much money the state would save if people had to pass a urine test to get a public assistance check? He says, I guess we could title that program, You're In or You're Out.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I did.
Yes, I did.
What kind of crazy weather you got down there in Atlanta? We've had kind of crazy weather here.
It's actually kind of nice right now. Do you know it was almost 70 degrees over the weekend? It was 68 on Saturday, 69 on Sunday. But I'm told that it's going to chill back down, and we actually had a little bit of rain today.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you can hear it. I'm coming down with cold number 2 of winter, and I'm really upset about that.
Well, congratulations on your second child. Okay. Mm-hmm. You just keep that up, and you better take something for it. I don't know.
am.
Yes.
Vitamin C, multivitamins, Zyme, and Airborne.
A little Viagra wouldn't hurt probably, too. It'll sure take your mind off of things. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, off of what?
Yeah.
Everything but one thing. That's one way to look at it. No, just
that's no big deal. Okay.
It's like winning isn't everything. It's the only thing.
Well, with all this crazy weather people are having all over. You know, I come from South Dakota. That's where I was born and raised. Some people say reared, but actually I wasn't. I was raised there. And I grew up
in
with
a barn?
No. Oh, my God. If I ever went to a bar, I'd have gotten my ass tanned. Holy mackerel.
No, I said barn because...
barn. Barn.
Raised,
well, I was out in the barn. I was out in the barn, yes. Mm-hmm. But I grew up with a lot of Native Americans as my close friends and such, and I do keep in touch with them. And I know they've been having some crazy weather. Well, it is late, late spring, winter, or whatever it is, you know? It's late winter now. Spring hasn't sprung yet. And the Indians on a remote reservation. The Indians on a remote reservation in South Dakota asked their new chief if the coming winter was going to be cold or mild. Well, since he was a chief in a modern society, he had never been taught the old secrets. And when he looked at the sky, he couldn't tell what the winter was going to be like. Nevertheless, to be on the safe side, he told his tribe that the winter was indeed going to be cold and that the members of the village should collect firewood to be prepared. But being a practical leader, after several days, he got an idea. He went to the phone booth, called the National Weather Service, and asked, "Is the rest of the winter going to be cold?" Well, the meteorologist at the weather center responded, "Well, it looks like it's going to be quite cold." So the chief went back to his people and told them to collect even more firewood in order to be prepared. A week later, he called the National Weather Service again. "Does it still look like it's going to be very, very cold?" "Yes, it's going to be very cold," the Weather Service man said. The chief again went back to his people and ordered them to collect every scrap of firewood they could find. 2 weeks later, the chief called the National Weather Service man again. He says, "Are you absolutely sure that the winter is going to be like this?" "Absolutely," the man replied. "It's looking more and more like it's going to be like one of the coldest times we've ever seen." "Well, how can you be so sure?" the chief asked. Well, the weatherman replied, "My God, the Indians are collecting firewood like crazy." So to all of my Native American friends listening in, here's to you. And Lord help us.
Praise the Lord and pass the wood.
I got one for you, Lance.
Okay.
I got this. Someone pulled on me the other day. Without anyone watching you, while you're sitting at your desk in front of your computer, lift your right foot off the floor and start moving it in clockwise circles. And I said, okay. So I did it. And he says, now, while you're doing this, draw the number 6 in the air with your right hand. Your foot will change direction. Do you know that it does? I just did it. I could not stop my foot from changing direction. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. Yeah, it does it, doesn't it?
That's the whole, and it's just like if you, what is it? You can't rub your belly and pat your head, or pat your belly and rub your head.
One of those things. It's like it's pre-programmed in our brain or something.
That's right.
I couldn't believe it. Okay.
But homosexuality is a choice.
That it is. Yes, that's what they say. Oh, my God. Well, I'll talk about that in a little bit, too. What happened up in New York City? You went to the what?
I went to the first annual PFLAG Straight for Equality Gala at the Marriott Marquis.
Okay, now let me clarify. Straight for Equality. So it was a convention or something or other for straights who believe.
No, it was just a big black tie gala dinner.
Well, I mean, it was for straights who believe in the equality of all of us.
That's exactly right. Well, they certainly believe in LGBT equality. I will make no claims on the rest of their views.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they are allies to LGBT people everywhere. And the dinner was a smashing success. We gave a Straight for Equality in Entertainment Award to Sigourney Weaver. We gave a Straight for Equality in the Humanities Award to Dr. Maya Angelou. And we gave a Straight for Equality in Education Award to Dr. Johnetta B. Cole. Now, I knew who Johnetta B. Cole was.
Who is Johnetta B. Cole?
And that's the story I was about to tell, is I knew her as formerly you know what, and I'm just going to have to pause here for a minute because the dog has a bar of soap in her mouth. Hold on.
It's like having a child, isn't it? We'll clean up that little mouth.
Sorry, kids. I can only imagine what I'm going to find on my floor after that goes to her. She's all beautiful and excited because she knows Daddy's doing something that she's not involved in, and she's like, "What is all this activity that doesn't involve me?" And I'm like, "Look, I've sacrificed all these frisbees and dog toys that you can chew on, and there's even certain pieces of furniture that you may not know it, but I'd be okay if you chewed on them." And she's like, "No, I'm going to go for the one thing that's going to get you off that microphone."
And, of course, she didn't want Grandpa Ace to be the only one with a potty mouth that wasn't cleaned up, so she cleaned hers up.
And she was sitting there, and I was sitting there watching her with the bar of soap, and I'm like, surely she's not going to, oh, my God, she's licking it. Well, surely, oh, my God, she's eating it. I was like, oh, excuse me.
Okay, back to the topic.
So here's the thing about Dr. Johnetta B. Cole. Now, I am a reasonably attentive person, so I knew that she had been the president of Spelman College, and I think I knew but had forgotten that she had also been the president of Bennett College. Well, it just so happens that not only are those both what we call HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, but the only two in the HBCU firmament that are women's institutions, and she's been president of both. And I thought, oh, well, this is interesting. And she got up and she started talking, and I was like, okay, she's clearly down, with our stuff, and she's a cool lady. And then she said, let me tell you about my teaching career at Hunter College in New York, which for people who know is like round about 68th Street on the east side. And I thought, oh, okay, so I didn't realize she had taught there. And she said, I had my world turned upside down by a fellow professor, a colleague, who I'm sure all of you know by the name of Audre Lorde. And that's when you could see in the room, it had the same effect on everybody that it had on me. I was like, oh, shit, wow. It's like a connection to history. And so all of a sudden I was like, okay, now I'm fully paying attention. So not only was this woman a contemporary of Audre Lorde, but she is just the shit. And at the end of her talk, which was, of course, about the need for equality, and I mean, she gets it. And she stated it so beautifully. She goes, and I'll have you know that I'm the proud grandmother, and I'm not going to say it as elegantly as she did, of I think she said an entering freshman, don't laugh, at Smith College in Massachusetts, who is a lesbian. And I'm like, really? A lesbian at Smith? Gosh, that never happens. But it's just so cool. She's like, proud grandma of a lesbian. And I'm like, God, lucky grandchild who can be like, okay, not only is my grandma way cool, but she was like she was a colleague of Audre Lorde.
Now tell the folks who Audre Lorde is.
You know, you would ask me that. I don't know.
Yes,
well, she's so many things. She was a poet. She was an author. She was a speaker. But she's one of those people. And I'm trying to think, Ace, like who would be the gay male equivalent of her? But she's probably one of the preeminent sort of what would be the word? Not postmodern, but in the latter half of the century, I guess modern. She's a lesbian touchstone. She's a touchstone for our movement. She was a badass.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and it's just, I was like, okay. And I will say this about Dr. Angelou. She's frail. I didn't expect
she is
that.
now. I heard her speak
frail.
years ago. I heard her speak years
She's
ago.
frail. Well, let's say this, her body is frail. But and the reason I say that is because we had this VIP reception beforehand, and of course it was everybody's opportunity to interact with Miss Weaver, as we were told to call her, and Dr. Cole, who I never saw enter the room, but then again, I'm not a good mingler, and Dr. Angelou. Well, we found out she couldn't make it to the reception because she wasn't feeling well, and I thought, oh, well, that's not good. So we get to the dinner and they go on with the program and they announce the award. And I'm like, okay, so is she here? And then instead of her coming onto the stage, Oscar style, to accept it, they brought the microphone down to the floor and the spotlight followed. And there she was at one of the head tables. And she just kind of stood up and they handed her the microphone. And she did it in her way. She grabbed the microphone and she said, what did she start with? Well, I'm just going to make it up. She said, I am black. I am white. I am female. I am male. I am straight. I am gay. And she just went off. And she did 2 rounds of that. She did that and she did one other. And basically her point was, we're all in it together. And I was like, man, she is. Yeah. Well, Ace, and I know you know this because you know everything, especially if it has to do with entertainment. Okay, I'm going to have to beg y'all's forgiveness because now I have to go pull a sponge out of Daisy's mouth because she's chewing it. Hold on a second.
Well, I imagine meeting Sigourney Weaver. She is one heck of a wonderful lady and a great actress. And
mind you, she's got this wonderful orange Frisbee that I've set aside for her to chew on, and she's been having the best time with it. It's half gone.
Are we talking about Daisy or Sigourney Weaver?
I've heard Miss Weaver loves to chew on a Frisbee.
That's what I heard too, and I heard she's good at it.
I'm telling you, this dog is just like a kid. They pick the one thing when they know that you're not in a position to deal with them. They go and do the one thing that will get you to give up whatever it is that you're doing. Because when I'm not tied to this microphone, she's like, "Oh gosh, the Frisbee, love it, cool." Uh-huh. We get on this microphone and she's like, let me go in the bathroom, the one door in that house that doesn't shut. Let me go in the bathroom and see how many things I can grab out of the tub and chew on, to the consternation of my dad. She's a little piece of work. But anyway, so Maya Angelou was a badass. Well, and you know this part. And I'm sure I knew it. I had just forgotten it. But in the introduction of her, they said she is the first African American woman in America to have a screenplay of hers produced, in addition to everything else that she is. I mean, it was just such a, I hate to use trite terms, but it was kind of this magical evening. You really felt like you were up there with people who are part of history. And of course, you know, then, and Miss Weaver got to go last. So she was the star power. I don't think there's any real history there, except Alien was a pretty cool movie, and it was groundbreaking. And she was really cool about it. She goes, you know, I'm last, I think, because my name starts with W. She gave this really interesting speech. Now, everybody's speech was pre-written, and there were even teleprompters, and you could tell that people were reading from them. I mean, I will say this, Dr. Cole did it in such a way I had no idea she was reading from a speech. And then Miss Weaver got up. I'm just going to say Sigourney. We're among friends. we were told just to not say Sigourney to her face.
Okay.
So she gets up there and she delivers her speech in such a way that it's like it's not a speech. She's like, and and another thing, and I just really believe, and she just kind of did it in this like it's coming off the top of my head way that I thought was
She's
really
a pro. She's the pro.
Amen. I mean, at first, it really sounded like an Oscar acceptance speech. She was like, well, and I'd just like to thank, so-and-so, and it's been such a journey and all that. And then she kind of went into her impromptu speech. And then she said really it's just the most interesting thing for me. She said, it's very hard for me to understand being in a workplace where not everyone is accepted. She said, because I come from the theater world, she said, which is kind of a grab bag, she's like, you kind of get all kinds. She goes, so that's what you're wired for, and you get used to it. And so the thought that there would be a workplace that you could enter where that's not the case is actually kind of foreign to me. She should have said alien. Maybe she did say alien and I just didn't pick up on it. Oh, Daisy found another sponge. Bless your heart.
How many people were in attendance?
600.
Whoa.
It was $500 a ticket, so you can do the math and be like, whoa, that's easily 300 grand. Hold on a sec, I got to grab this other sponge.
That's wonderful. And PFLAG made a few bucks, and they need it, They really do, because they're doing such a wonderful work.
She's being such a brat tonight. Now she grabbed her little sponge that I bathe her with. Little stinker. She knows. Yeah. Kids know. They know when you're packing to go on a trip. They know when you're tied up and can't pay attention to them. Bless her heart. So it was a really fabulous evening. And here's the other thing. And that was just like the star power. But here's the other thing. So the CEO of Food Lion, I think current CEO of IBM, which awarded the Corporate Equality Award, and this guy who I think had essentially retired from being the global diversity director for IBM, they all got up and made really powerful statements about the need for corporate America to really wake up to the fact that if you want the best and brightest talent, you got to lay it on the line. You got to have inclusive policies. You got to make your company welcoming. And the IBM Global Diversity guy, Ted Childs, who actually was the chair of the dinner, he was just so very American and corporate about it. He goes, it's not just about doing the right thing. It's about winning. And so if you're not committed to winning, don't have these policies. Don't have a full-fledged equality effort for LGBT people. But if you do, then that's one of the keys to winning. And he said winning several times. And I was like, that's an interesting message for corporate America in these days and times.
Yes.
When I think they need all the advantages they can possibly get. So it's really just a kind of a fabulous evening and here's the other thing. So Mayor Bloomberg showed up. He got on the schedule at the very last minute, but of course, when someone like the mayor says he'd like to be on you make room for him. So he got up and he said his piece, and apparently he's doing everything he can to make New York a very LGBT, not just friendly but positive employer. And
well, he's been a supporter of LGBT rights for many years, and
God bless him for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really cool thing. It's kind of a new what's the word? High watermark for PFLAG. We've never.
Where did you stay? Where did you stay?
Well, the first 2 nights I was at a Marriott downtown, and then the second 2 nights I stayed with friends in Brooklyn who live in a part of Brooklyn that we call Archie Bunker Land, and it really is. And they're partnered, and they just bought a 100-year-old small Victorian house, of course, for many multiples of what you or I might have paid for our domiciles. Cute house, solid as a rock, and kind of adjacent to a really nice collection of Victorian, like larger Victorian homes. If you're really familiar with New York geography, they're right near Ditmas Park, and I think part of what we walked through might have been Ditmas Park or close to it. The signs all said South Park Slope, I think it was, Historic District.
And what was the weather like when you were there?
It was nice. It was like high 40s, low 50s. It was beautiful. That was the second 2 days. The first 2 days I was there. Okay, so first morning, I'm waking up to the local radio broadcast, and they're like, it's 12 degrees in Central Park with a wind chill of 1. I was like, and I'm staying in bed. Second morning, 17 degrees, and I'm on the 33rd floor of this hotel, high up enough that you can hear the wind howling as it whips past the hotel. And it was this constant, I mean, whenever I was in the room, it was just this constant, just banshee wail. And the second day, I remember I went up to get ready to go to the dinner uptown, and I swear I felt the building sway. That's how strong the wind was. And I know buildings are supposed to sway, but I'd never actually felt that. I remember my mother telling me about it because she used to work in one of the skyscrapers here in Atlanta. So that was interesting. And here's the other cool thing. My room had a really nifty view right down into Ground Zero. That's where we were. And it was a view of the construction site and some new building they were building, and then this really nice older skyscraper with this sort of French Victorian something mansard roof on top. It was like I was looking inside the world's largest dollhouse, because I'm looking in the windows and I'm seeing people. I think it was residential, and I'm looking in these little windows and I'm like, I feel like it's a scene out of a Woody Allen movie or something, you know? Mm-hmm. And there was a little empty room in the far corner of the building on the very kind of top floor, with windows on 2 walls, and the sunlight was pouring in. It was this little empty apartment. It just made it very easy to dream that, with me and my $6 million, that could be me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you had a wonderful time, and now we got a little background as to what happened for that wonderful event. And folks, keep supporting PFLAG no matter where you live in this country or wherever, because PFLAG needs our support. And the folks that they are helping really do need our support. And when you're mentioning Sigourney Weaver, I was thinking of the movies these days. I really hate sex in the movies. I do. I tried it once. Seat folded up. The seat folded up, the drink spilled, and that ice, well, it just chilled the mood totally, What can I say?
Ace, you're incorrigible.
Well, sometimes.
You got to be good at something.
Yep. I've been thinking a lot lately, especially because of what's been going on in the world and in the gay community and the straight community and such. And it keeps going through my head. I think it was around 69 or 70 when the word gay was first beginning to be used in place of the word homosexual. I was a married man then, and I'd been a producer-director of a live show for a few years, and we were entertaining the military that were going to and coming home from Vietnam. It was a crazy time of protests and change. And folks were talking openly about things we had never dreamed we'd be talking about openly then, like the damn war with its pros and cons and the incredible loss of thousands of our citizens. It ended up being 58,226 of our citizens died in that damn war. And there was talk about equal rights for women. And of course, then there was that crazy Woodstock event. And promiscuity of the times, it was a big thing to talk about. And drugs, and drugs, and drugs. And then on top of everything, some crazy drag queens in New York City fought back, turning cop cars over and screaming they weren't going to take the raids and abuse anymore. Oh, that was quite a time we were in back then. I've thought about it. We're talking about a lot of things with friends, with family, with business acquaintances, and even with strangers we'd be sitting next to in a restaurant or whatever. It was just an incredible time. And because of my labors in personal management and public relations, plus work on my cornstalk project at that time, I had meetings with a lot of big shot types. And at one such meeting, when we veered off of the business and began chatting about what was happening in the world, I indicated my feelings about equal rights for women, the foolishness of the war, and that the homos shouldn't have been so abused that they had to riot in New York City. And one of the men, I remember, turned to me and said in sort of a snide manner, "What are you, some sort of a faggot lover?" He laughed and turned away. I didn't respond back then. I would have now, but then I just thought to myself, he may be a millionaire, but what an asshole. God, he's a hater. He hates queers. At that time, I was a married man, and although I knew innately that I had attractions to men and not women, I honestly didn't know any more than just that, and had always thought I was only, quote, different, Mm-hmm. I'd heard about homosexuality being something one could choose and that it could be cured. But I also knew that I didn't hate anybody like that millionaire creep did. And I've been thinking, we are really complicated beings, aren't we? I also knew at that time that I had no racial prejudice like so many I'd run into, or at least I thought so. Like I said, I didn't think I had any racial prejudice until one day I heard myself comment about some news event in the words, and I spoke, "Those dirty Japs." I couldn't believe I'd actually said those words. And since my belief was that we are what we've been becoming, I had to stop and think and go way back to World War II, when Americans were teaching young folks about those dirty Japs and putting them in concentration camps. And then I knew that that's where those words came from, and I had to sit down and give myself a soul cleansing. Yep, being rich or poor, no difference. Being male or female, straight or gay makes no difference. Age makes no difference. We are just a very complicated being of our very unique species in this animal kingdom. And I've been thinking a lot about it lately. And I just had to spill my guts to you. Sorry about that. Hey, did you hear about this guy that went to the supermarket and he notices an attractive woman waving at him? She says, "Hello." Well, he's rather taken aback because he can't place where in the hell he knows her from. So he says, "Do you know me?" To which she replies, "I think you're the father of one of my kids." Well, now his mind really travels back to the only time he has ever been unfaithful to his wife, and he says, "Oh my God, are you the stripper from my bachelor party that I made love to on the pool table with all my buddies watching while your partner whipped my ass?" Well, she looks into his eyes and says very calmly, "No, I'm your son's teacher."
Oh, love it.
"I think you're the father of one of my kids." So men, be careful when somebody says something like that. Don't go off on a binge. Oh, my goodness. Back in December, I think it was, Lance, that I read where the California Supreme Court did something regarding, they were accused of undermining the concept of the Good Samaritan thing after it had allowed a paralyzed woman to sue the friend who pulled her out of a crashed car. And Tom Leonard in New York wrote about it. Alexandra Van Horn claimed that Lisa Torti pulled her out of the vehicle, which had just crashed into a lamppost at 45 miles an hour. She was like a rag doll, and she claimed it contributed to her injuries. And so she evidently sued her friend. I don't know about you, but what are your thoughts on something like this? You know, when you see an accident, don't you want to help?
It really should not be possible to sue someone who tried to save your life. That's just ridiculous.
I just couldn't believe it. Of course, it's California, and a lot of strange things happen in that little old state of ours.
It's the land of fruits and nuts.
Yeah.
And it's your backyard.
The justice there, Moreno was his name, noted that the ruling that people were not obligated to come to someone's aid, but if they did so, they had a duty, quote, to exercise due care. Well, this friend pulled her friend out of a car that had just crashed and probably was getting ready to burn. And then the friend says that it helped contribute to her injuries later, you know.
Unbelievable.
I swear. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make much sense to me when things like that happen. We're supposed to show compassion. Well, what if it becomes illegal to show compassion? Or what if you're scared to show compassion? You know?
And the lesson, ladies and gentlemen, is don't live in California.
Yeah. Well, Jim Porter, a California lawyer, said that the moral here is that if you are rescuing or helping someone in an emergency, be sure and administer some medical care, like carry Band-Aids.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to think that things like that can
on a
happen.
Slightly upbeat note, did you see that the South Carolina Parole Board denied early parole for Stephen Mahler? Do you know?
Yes, I did see that. Yes.
This is important because do you know what one of the big injustices in that case is?
No, tell us.
Well, this is the case of essentially the murder of Sean Kennedy. Sean Kennedy essentially died because of hate. He was punched. Stephen Mahler punched Sean back in May of 2007, essentially because he's gay. What Stephen could not have known at the time was that punch would kill Sean Kennedy. Now, South Carolina obviously has no hate crimes law, but even on top of that, South Carolina doesn't have apparently second-degree murder. So it's either first-degree premeditated or it's manslaughter, like, oh, I hit a deer. And this crime is clearly in that in-between space where second degree or a stiffer penalty for it being a hate crime, because let's face it, he wouldn't have punched Sean Kennedy if it weren't about Sean Kennedy being gay. That's crystal clear. Sean Kennedy would not be dead today if Stephen Mahler didn't have some homophobia going on that night.
Have you ever been assaulted?
I have not. So here's what's going on in this case. Stephen Mahler apparently is serving all of probably a 5-year sentence, I think it is. It's 3 or 5 years. So him not getting early parole was really, really important to Sean Kennedy's family and supporters.
Well, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's already serving really quite a minimal sentence. So this is really good news coming out of a state that has the absolute highest number. I think, is it per capita or is it just raw numbers? But it is home to the highest number, whichever way you count it, of hate groups. It's kind of a messed up place. It's beautiful, like the license plate says, beautiful smiles, beautiful places, or whatever. But
where is this?
South Carolina.
South Carolina, huh?
Not the most ideal legal environment. So this is yet another very small victory in a very long and agonizing battle that Sean's family and friends have been waging for some sort of justice.
Mm-hmm. Boy.
I mean, bless his heart. I mean, what I think, if I remember correctly, it's either the punch killed him instantly or he died because of the way his head hit the ground. It's just such a tragedy.
Well,
It's
hate is a tragedy. And
absolutely.
it's horrible it's horrible that we have the ability to hate, but do you know that if we couldn't hate, I don't think we'd be able to love, because if there's
Now,
a yin,
I disagree. I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay, you go ahead. If there's a yin, there has to be a yang. If there is a black, there has to be a white. And without black, there would be no white, etc., etc. So without love,
hey, no. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is the absence of love. That's two different things. I do believe in what you're saying. I believe that you measure your happiness by knowing what it is to not be happy. You measure your joy by knowing what it is to not have joy. And I think because of that, you measure the intensity of love by knowing what it's like to live in the absence of that kind of intense love. And I think hate is something completely different. Maybe hate's opposite is the absence of hate, which honestly is not love. The absence of hate is just, I don't know, indifference. Oh, Daisy's got something new in her mouth. Well, what's this?
Well, I can go along with that. Yeah, that sounds all right.
Other bar is so little vixen. Hold on.
Yeah. By the way, I asked a female friend of mine. I said to her, I says, "Why are women so crabby?" And she says,
Daisy's older self and her better nature apologize for the foibles of her childhood.
Okay, we accept.
And I have a news flash for all of our listeners. Next week, and for probably some successive weeks thereafter, Daisy's going to have to serve podcast time in, as I call it, Puppy Dale. We're going to have to pray her.
Okay.
She's clear. Oh, and there she goes back in the bathroom. We'll see what she comes back with. Some other toiletry. If she comes back with my toothbrush.
Speaking of soap, our listeners should check out our website and check onto what's the name of that website there?
Yes, the link for the Belle Sapone soap on Etsy,
yes.
which
Okay.
I need to beef up my store because my soap is not selling.
Okay. Check that out, and you're going to get some wonderful soap. I swear to God, it smells just like heaven, and not that I'm telling you that heaven is going to smell like soap, but
wait, you mean it smells just like me? Oh, Ace, you're too kind.
Yes, it does. And also, folks, if you want someone to actually produce a great website for you, our webmaster has his website address on there. Get in touch with him. He is the man. And if you are in the Atlanta area and want to attend a church on Sunday, go to the Church Without Walls. What's the name of it down there, Lance?
Gentle Spirit Christian Church.
Gentle Spirit Christian Church, okay. These are some wonderful sponsors that we have, and I'm just so thankful for them. And if you want to email us, folks, the email address that you can drop us a memento. That's not what I want.
Send us an email that says, "I love Jesus, but I drink a little."
Yeah, okay, that's okay. What's the address? It's
Lundon Calling. Actually, it's london.calling@gmail.com.
At Gmail, okay. And someone said
maybe we
to me,
should change it to blessyourheart@gmail.com.
Someone said to me the other day, how come you promote authors like the wonderful authoress that we had on the last show or the one that I was talking about today and such? How come you promote authors but not your own books? And I said, well, I just keep forgetting to do it. But, folks, yes, I am an author. Big fucking deal. That just means that I write. Okay, but I've got some good books, I think, and you can find out about my books at acelundon.com. I have an autobiography, which even after all of these years, I still keep getting wonderful comments on. I'm just thankful for that. Then I have what I call a conspiracy theory novel called what the hell did I call it? Oh, Through the Needle's Eye. Passage in Time Through the Needle's Eye. And then I have a science fiction book. For all you sci-fi people out there, it's called The Legend of the Planet Itnava. And I have asked the webmistress on my site to make it possible for you to read The Legend of the Planet Itnava on, what's that called? Right on email, not email, but something or other. Anyway, you can read it on the site, download or whatever, you know. So
wonderful.
You can read that one for free. Books cost so much these days; it's crazy. But anyway, that's my email, my website. I mean, for my books, and I still continue to keep writing. Now, going back to what I was saying, I talked to this friend of mine, and I asked her. I says, "Why are women so damn crabby?" And she says, "You wait a second, Ace. Give me a little moment to think about this, and I'll give you something." I said, "Okay, Miss Crabby, you tell me all about it." So she sent me this message. She says, women are crabby because, she says, we started to bud in our blouses at 9 or 10 years old, only to find that anything that came in contact with those tender blooming buds hurt so bad it brought us to tears. And then so comes the ridiculously uncomfortable training bra contraption that the boys in school would snap until we had calluses on our backs. Next, we get our periods in our early to mid-teens or sooner. Along with those budding boobs, we bloated, we cramped, we got the hormone crankies. We had to wear little mattresses between our legs or insert tubular packed cotton rods in places we didn't even know we had. And our next little rite of passage was having sex for the first time, which was about as much fun as having a ramrod push your uterus through your nostrils. If he did it right. If he did it right and didn't end up with his little cart before his horse, leading us to wonder what all the fuss was about. And then it was off to motherhood, where we learned to live on dry crackers and water for a few months so we didn't spend the entire day leaning over Brother John. Of course, amazing creatures that we women are, and we learn to live with the growing little angels inside us, steadily kicking our innards night and day, making us wonder if we were preparing to have Rosemary's baby. Once flat tummies looked like we swallowed a whole watermelon, and we peed our pants every time we sneezed. Then the big moment arrived. The dam in our blessed nether regions invariably burst right in the middle of the mall, and we had to waddle with our big cartoon feet moaning in pain all the way to the ER. And then it was huff and puff and beg to die while the OB says, "Please stop screaming, Mrs. Harrier-Moore. Calm down and push. Just one more good push." More like 10. Warranting a strong, well-deserved impulse for me to punch the son of a bitch hubby and doctor square in the nose for making us cram a wiggling, mushroom-headed 10-pound bowling ball through a keyhole. And after that, it was time to raise those angels, only to find out that when cute wears off, the beautiful little darlings morphed into walking, jabbering, wet, gooey, snot-blowing, life-sucking little poop machines. Then come their teen years, and need I say more, Ace? When the kids are almost grown, we women hit our voracious sexual prime in our early 40s, while hubby had his somewhere around his 18th birthday. And so we progress into the grand finale, the menopause, the grandmother of all womanhood. It's either take HRT and chance cancer, or those now seasoned buds, or the aforementioned nether regions, or sweat like a hog in July, wash your sheets and pillowcases daily, and bite the head off anything that moves. So now you ask why women seem to be more spiteful than men when men get off so easy, including the icing on life's cake. Men are able to pee in the woods without soaking their socks. And so, well, I love being a woman, Ace. Womanhood would make the great Gandhi a tad crabby. And you think women are the weaker sex? Yeah, right. Bite me, she says.
Oh, Ace.
Oh,
good.
dear. Oh, dear. Well, a woman's poem. Before I lay me down to sleep, I pray for a man who's not a creep. One who's handsome, smart, and strong. One who loves to listen long. One who thinks before he speaks. One who'll call, not wait for weeks. I pray he's gainfully employed. When I spend his cash, he won't be annoyed. When he pulls out my chair and opens my door, massages my back and begs to do more. Oh, send me a man who'll make love to my mind, knows what to answer to, how big is my behind. I pray that this man will love me to no end and always be my very best friend. Yes, that's a woman's prayer poem. A man's prayer poem, on the other hand. I pray for a deaf, mute, nymphomaniac gymnast with huge boobs and a nice ass who owns a bar on a golf course and loves to send me fishing and drinking. This doesn't rhyme, I know, but I don't give a shit. Oh, the difference between men and women. It will never end.
Terrible.
Oh, yes, that's true. I went to the doctor this week to have my ears done. And it turns out that when I got there, I waited about 2 hours and then found out that one of the doctors had, quit or something or other anyway. So I'm going to have to go back and get that taken care of again. I do that about every 3 to 6 months because ever since I got drunk and had a concussion when I was a teenager, I've had problems with my ears. So I have to just keep doing that. But it reminded me of this sweet grandmother who telephoned St. Peter's Hospital, and she timidly asked, "Is it possible to speak to someone who can tell me how a patient is doing?" And the operator responded, "I'll be glad to help you, dear. What's the patient's name and room number?" Well, the grandmother in her weak, tremulous voice said, "Mary Findlay, room 302. The operator replied, "Let me place you on hold while I check with her nurse." After a few minutes, the operator returned to the phone. "Oh, good news. Her nurse has told me that Mary is doing very well. Her blood pressure is fine. Her blood work just came back as normal. And her physician, Dr. Cohen, has scheduled her to be discharged on Tuesday." The grandmother said, "Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. I was so worried. God bless you for your good news." The operator replied, "Oh, you're more than welcome. Is Mary your daughter?" The grandmother said, "No, I'm Mary Findlay in room 302. No one tells me shit."
That's great.
Oh, Lord help us, huh?
Lord help us. Well, our dear listeners have wasted yet another hour.
Isn't that wonderful? And I love every one of them. I can't believe we've had 4,000 plus hits and such. Oh, my goodness sakes. And no, I can't afford to promote, so I just don't know where they're all hearing about it. But somebody is a Miss Blabbermouth, that's for sure. Oh, man.
We're rocking and rolling.
Yes.
We're a bi-coastal phenomenon.
Yes. Did you hear what the blonde said? "I was worried that my mechanic might rip me off." She said, "I was so relieved when he told me that all I needed was turn signal fluid."
Love it.
Oh, it's fun being a blonde. Yes, it is.
Swedes
dear.
Unite.
Yes. Well, my mind works like lightning. One brilliant flash and it's gone. I swear to God. So, folks, drop us a note, london.calling@gmail.com. We do love you. And remember, if you slide down the banister of life, may the splinters never be pointing the wrong way.
Oh, God.
I love you. Night, night, or whatever.
Good night.